From the KELOLAND Digital Desk, I'm meteorologist Scott Mundt, and this is Weather or Not. We are looking at a Wednesday, August 20th, and we have the holiday weekend coming up in about a week and a half. Summer still holding on for at least the next couple of days, but things will eventually change. Here's what's coming up on today's show. High heat and humidity will continue. That will take us through today, tomorrow, and into Friday. You'll notice some changes. We do have some cooler weather coming by the time we do get into Friday. That comes along with a chance at least at some showers, maybe some thunderstorms as this front eventually moves across KELOLAND. We'll talk about the pattern as we usually do on Whether or Not. Part of that pattern, bringing in cold air, 40s for overnight lows. And I look back at when we had some cooler overnights during the summer, and I noticed somewhat of a cycle trying to develop or has developed. It's around 40, maybe 45 days, and we'll dive more into that coming up during Whether or Not. But let's talk about today's weather as we do have mostly sunny to partly cloudy skies in our forecast for today. Temperatures will reach the 80s and 90s as we continue with thick humidity. Dew point temperatures in the 60s and 70s to cover much of central and eastern KELOLAND. It's a cold front that we'll watch for tomorrow. Not for today, but for tomorrow, and that will eventually bring in maybe some showers and thunderstorms that will eventually start across, we'll say, northwestern South Dakota, and then eventually try to make their way into central and eastern KELOLAND as we do get into the overnight hours for tomorrow night and looking into your Friday morning across eastern and southeastern KELOLAND. Stay with us on Whether or Not. We will be talking about our heat and humidity, which is continuing for today with high temperatures in the 80s and 90s. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Whether or Not. It seems like something we've been talking about through much of the summer, and I guess we should, is the high heat and the high humidity that we've had throughout much of the area. That continues for today. We'll have temperatures in our 80s, 90s for the actual air temperature. We'll have dew point numbers that will reach the 60s and 70s. So you notice the humid air in central and eastern KELOLAND, but much drier today across western South Dakota. Dew point temperatures in the 40s to near 50 degrees. This is a look at tomorrow. We'll do it again. Dew point temperatures in the low to middle 70s for eastern, northeastern South Dakota, throughout Minnesota, northwestern Iowa, still in the 50s in western South Dakota. It slowly starts to change as a front moves through on Friday. Behind that front, we'll have northerly winds. That will help that drier air come in. As you see, dew point numbers in the 50s in western, central, and for northern South Dakota. We'll still hold to dew point temperatures upper 60s to low 70s across southeastern KELOLAND. So again, that's that thick humidity that you can feel as you do walk outdoors. But that changes. But before it does, let's talk about that heat index, as we'll have values today close to 100 in central South Dakota, and the actual air temperature will be close to 100 in Phillip for today, and that may extend into southwestern South Dakota. But the air is drier, much drier across western and southwestern South Dakota today, so it's a lot easier to heat up drier air as compared to air that has moisture to it. And then our heat index for tomorrow, notice those numbers in the middle 60s in central, maybe to southeastern South Dakota, east central South Dakota. Huron's heat index at around 95. That's at a time where I think our air temperatures will still be in the upper 80s to the lower 90s. But as I mentioned, this front will eventually move through as we go through the day tomorrow, and that can spark some strong to severe weather. There is a marginal risk for severe weather, hail and wind being the main threat out of any storms that do develop. And you see that marginal risk runs from central to northeastern South Dakota as the front moves through. And it will help bring in lower dew point temperatures. So we are looking at less humidity for this weekend. This is the first half of the weekend on Saturday. Notice those numbers in the 40s, western, central, northern South Dakota. We'll have dew point temperatures in the lower 50s across eastern and southeastern KELOLAND. Let's continue through this weekend. Here's a look at Sunday. Widespread 40s for dew point temperatures, and this is during the afternoon. We'll probably have lower values during the morning, and that will allow those morning temperatures to eventually fall probably to the 40s to cover much of eastern South Dakota into Minnesota, northwestern Iowa. More on that coming up in just a bit. So let's go ahead and jump into Monday. Early next week, we'll slowly try to warm as we hit about midweek and beyond. But before then, we will continue with our temperatures on the cool side, cooler than average. Well, we are looking at cooler weather for this weekend. Let's go ahead and show you our 500 millibar pattern as that high pressure system continues to hold, but it's well to our southwest. And as that happens, we're watching for, disturbances, troughs, if you will, to run through Canada, eventually across the upper plains over the next week to week and a half. And as that happens, of course, we bring in our cooler temperatures. So here's a closer look at the pattern here. There's that area of high pressure as we do go through the day for tomorrow. That will help the heat remain across the central and the northern United States, and with our temperatures being above average. Now, as we continue through time, you notice that trough that moved through for this weekend. We have low pressure in the Canada north of the Great Lakes there. So this trough will move across the upper Midwest and into the Great Lakes area. Behind it, we'll have a northwest flow. And that northwest flow will help bring in the cooler temperatures. And as that front moves through, also mention that chance for showers and thunderstorms along with it. High pressure stays anchored to our southwest. And then as we get into the later part of the month, going into this coming holiday weekend, we'll have to watch this area right here, this low pressure system toward, looks like southwestern Wisconsin. We'll see if we have enough moisture around. We'll slowly try to warm. And I think as we do go through next week, we'll also bring in some higher dew point temperatures. I checked earlier this morning. Those numbers are expected to return to the middle, maybe the upper 60s as we get into the later part of next week. So we'll try to bring in a little more humidity after getting that break from the humidity this weekend. And then we'll see how much moisture is around to help bring in these scattered shower and thunderstorm chances with a couple of disturbances trying to run through the upper plains and into the Great Lakes. And then as we go into that first week of September, let me go ahead and change the view, okay? Because I'm starting to see this trough develop right here, okay? With that, we'll probably have a low pressure system that will eventually move through across the southwestern United States. What usually happens is we start to see a warm air mass ahead of this trough. And in fact, I think the next slide will help show that too. So as we go through the first couple of days of the new month, we may start cool as we're getting out of, Labor Day with the chances for showers, thunderstorms, with that low pressure system that moved through. Beyond that, those temperatures will warm if this trough starts to dig across the southwest, and I think that it will. And then we'll see what happens with that trough. Usually they try to spit out areas of low pressure to bring in more shower and thunderstorm chances, and that'll probably take us to the tail end of the first week of September, maybe extending into that second week of the month. So I think these steady chances for showers, thunderstorms will continue, especially as these temperatures do waffle back and forth. And you do see as we do get out of this coming weekend, early next week with this cooler air in place, we also try to warm closer to average. We do have that showing up in western, central, northern South Dakota. There's that cool air across the east and southeast with numbers that will be slightly below average. And that's a look at Labor Day itself on Monday, looking at temperatures that may be above average, western, central, and into northern South Dakota. As we go beyond Labor Day, I mentioned that trough. Now you can see the cooler air associated with it. Ahead of it, again, we'll have that surge of warm weather to help bring those temperatures above average once we get beyond Labor Day. If you don't get above average on Labor Day, you do have a better chance for the day after and even the day after that as we look at September 3rd. But we'll see what happens with this trough as it digs across the southwestern United States. The more it digs, the longer we'll stay with above average temperatures. If it doesn't dig that much and low pressure comes out a little bit sooner, that will help bring in shower and thunderstorm chances a little sooner, and also probably bringing in cooler than average temperatures. So we do have some things to look at as we finish out the month of August, going into the beginning of September. As we take a closer look at this coming weekend, mention that cooler weather coming in. Now, this is just some raw computer data for our temperatures. Notice as we go through the afternoon on Saturday, we'll have numbers in the 60s and 70s. It's trying to keep us as cool as the 60s here across southeastern South Dakota, Sioux Falls included. It will be quite the change from our temperatures we've had over the past several days, with these numbers in the 80s, 90s, on occasion hitting 100. So we'll bring in much cooler air for this weekend. It'll start to feel more like fall. We'll do it again on Sunday. Sunday, I wouldn't be surprised if we have some numbers starting in the 40s. Otherwise, we'll have widespread 50s for Sunday morning. And the same thing. We'll have temperatures in the 60s and 70s. It's trying to keep our rain chances farther to the south, mainly into Nebraska on Sunday. So as we go through this weekend, it looks like we'll have dry skies with our cool temperatures. I'd like to call it partly cloudy throughout much of the late morning hours and into the afternoon. Our rainfall chances here over the next 2 weeks, this is with that front that moves through for tomorrow night, extending into Friday morning. Then I think we'll get into a dry period with our cool temperatures. And then as we do slowly start to warm, I think we'll bring in better chances for rain. That may happen during the holiday weekend. And even going beyond that, we can continue to see these steady chances for rain for that first week of September. That's when a lot of that actually starts to fill in across KELOLAND with our rain accumulation map here, showing that across much of western, central, and into eastern South Dakota, of course, extending into Iowa and Minnesota. Stay with us. We'll talk about those temperatures possibly falling to the 40s for overnight lows. Welcome back to Whether or Not. It's time to talk about those temperatures that will fall to the 40s for overnight lows. If you're not a fan of bringing in fall weather quite yet, then this is probably what you're thinking. If you're tired of the heat and humidity, let's bring this one in. I know weather can't please everybody all the time, so we are looking at those colder temperatures set to arrive for this weekend. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday morning, we'll have temperatures fall to the 40s or low 50s for overnight lows. And we'll break this down for you as well. As we do go into your Sunday morning, you'll expect to see those temperatures at least near 50 degrees across eastern South Dakota. There are a couple of areas with numbers in the upper 40s. In the eastern, northeastern South Dakota, you see those areas outlined from Aberdeen, Huron, Mitchell at 49, Brookings at 49, Sioux Falls around 50 degrees. Now, Monday, I think we'll have more widespread 40s. 45 in Huron, 45 in Aberdeen, 45 in Brookings, and 47 in Sioux Falls. Temperatures near 50 in central and western South Dakota. I do think we'll have a couple of areas across western KELOLAND that will fall to the upper 40s. We'll slowly try to get rid of this cooler air as we do go through next week. By Tuesday morning, we could still have areas in eastern South Dakota fall to the middle 40s. As you see, Brookings coming in at around 46, 47 in Aberdeen, near 50 in Sioux Falls for your Tuesday morning. So we do have that cool weather that's coming in, and, it goes along with what we talked about, before, those cicadas, or, hearing those cicadas around the 4th of July. The weather folklore is 6 weeks out after hearing cicadas. There's a possibility for frost. And I've shown this graphic many times on Whether or Not. It's nice to bring up as we are entering this period now, that last week of August. What I have here is that range of record low temperatures during the last week, as low as 34 degrees. I don't know the date for that one in Sioux Falls, but as warm, quote unquote, warm, as 40 degrees, and that's on the 26th, so that will end up being Tuesday. And we still have temperatures holding in the 40s for overnight lows Tuesday morning across eastern KELOLAND. Otherwise, you see a couple of the other ranges here. One of the coldest, Aberdeen, down to 30. Their warmest record during that last week of the month is 38, and as cold as, say, 32 degrees in Watertown and in Mobridge. So we'll see what happens this time around with our cold temperatures expected to come in. Now let's go on to this 40 to 45 day cycle. I was thinking about this cold air that's on the way for this weekend and early next week, and also thinking about, well, when was the last time that we had these hits of some colder air come in during the summer? So I went back into the archives, and I used Aberdeen as a good example here, as in June 4th, Aberdeen fell to 39 degrees. And then July 17th, we fell to the middle 40s. Well, it's a 43-day gap between those two dates. And then we're looking at August 26th now, going into early next week. Temperatures probably falling to the 40s. May happen a little sooner. Could happen the 24th, 25th. But that's about, 40 days between the 17th and, say, the 26th. So could we be in this weather cycle of maybe 40 to 45 days? And when you do the math, then you're looking out to maybe October 5th through 10th to have this stronger push of colder air that can come across the area. So that is one thing that we'll continue to follow as we do go through these next couple of weeks here and going into the fall months. And again, meteorological fall starts September 1st, which, is Labor Day. And it looks like as we do get into the holiday weekend, temperatures will be close to their seasonal averages. Some areas may be a little bit above. I think the best chance to see that will end up being western and into northern South Dakota. But I also like our steady chances that we have at seeing showers and thunderstorms as we do go over the next several weeks. We will get into a dry period. Don't get me wrong. We will get into a dry period after this front moves through to help us cool as we do get into this weekend. Cool, dry air. That dry air continues throughout much of next week. And then once we start to see these temperatures warm, by the time we do get into the end of next week and for the holiday weekend, closer to average, we'll see if we can bring in some showers and thunderstorms along with it. Well, that's the latest here for us at Weather or Not. Thank you for joining us, and have a great day.